All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we are looking at the chemistry of onion tears, which is actually nature's incredibly clever defense system. We're going to tackle that everyday mystery of why the simple act of chopping an onion turns our kitchens into a literal crying game.
Seriously, have you ever wondered why chopping an onion almost always brings tears to your eyes? It's pretty much a universal experience for anyone who has ever prepped a meal. You grab your knife, make a few slices, and out of nowhere, you're weeping. But it's not just bad luck or sensitive eyes. It actually comes down to a really ruthless, invisible piece of chemistry happening right under our noses.
We usually think of the onion just sitting there totally passive while we prep our dinner. But in reality, your kitchen cutting board is a microscopic crime scene, and the onion is fighting back. It isn't just a victim, it's actively deploying a highly effective biological weapon. To get how this weapon works, we have to look inside. Before that very first cut, the onion is perfectly harmless. Why? Because deep inside the onion's cells, its natural compounds are safely stored apart from one another. They are locked away in completely isolated little cellular compartments, just chilling, doing absolutely nothing to bother you.
But the exact moment of attack happens the second your blade hits the skin. First, your knife acts as a physical catalyst, slicing through the vegetable and breaking those plant cells wide open. Second, those previously separated natural compounds are suddenly forced to mix. And finally, that mixing triggers a violent, instantaneous chemical chain reaction right there on your board.
This mixing produces syn propanethyl S oxide. It's a bit of a mouthful, but that is the invisible chemical gas produced when those onion compounds mix. I want you to remember that, because this specific, highly irritating gas is the exact culprit responsible for making your eyes water. So here's the crucial part about how this gas behaves the second it's born on your cutting board. It doesn't just sit there. This invisible gas rapidly rises into the air, and it has a very specific chemical affinity. It actively seeks out moisture, because water is the final ingredient it needs to fully arm its weapon. And what is the most vulnerable source of moisture hovering right above a cutting board? Yep, the thin, unprotected layer of moisture covering your eyes. The moment that rising gas hits the basal tears in your eyes, it alters chemically, transforming into a mild sulfenic acid. It's a literal physical burn. The gas reacts with your eyes, your sensory nerves detect this acid, and your brain instantly senses a direct chemical attack. Your brain basically goes into panic mode, realizing your highly sensitive eyes are under a real physical threat. To protect your vision from this burning invader, your body relies on an automatic defense mechanism. The brain senses the irritation, your tear glands rapidly spring into action, and they start pumping out extra tears specifically to dilute and wash away that chemical. This perfectly explains the compounding effect of meal prep. Chopping more onions continuously releases more gas, which triggers a much, much heavier flow of tears as your body desperately tries to flush out the continuous attack. Now, you might have noticed you don't cry the exact same amount every time you cook. That's because not all onions are armed equally. Sweeter onions naturally contain fewer of the sulfur compounds required to create the gas, making them way less irritating. Stronger onions, on the other hand, they are heavily armed. They pack a massive amount of sulfur compounds and therefore release a highly irritating, much larger volume of gas. Knowing exactly how this chemical warfare operates naturally leads us to ask the ultimate practical question. How can you defeat the gas and stop the tears? Can we actually fight back and save our dinner prep? Luckily, science gives us 3 highly effective countermeasures you can use to protect yourself. We have chill the onion in the refrigerator, use a very sharp knife, and if all else fails, wear protective goggles. Let's break down exactly why these work, based on the chemistry we just learned. Chilling the onion literally lowers its temperature enough to slow down the chemical reaction, meaning less gas is produced when you cut it. Using a very sharp knife is absolutely crucial because a clean cut damages far fewer cells, physically releasing way less of the volatile compounds. And finally, goggles just act as a physical shield to completely block the invisible gas from reaching the moisture in your eyes altogether. Despite all this microscopic warfare happening right there on your cutting board, it is really important to remember one thing. The onion isn't trying to make you cry on purpose. It honestly holds no personal grudge against chefs. It is simply using chemistry to protect itself from animals and insects that want to eat it. Out in the wilds, this whole gas attack is an incredible evolutionary defense system. When a hungry animal takes a bite, they get a faceful of that irritating gas,
and very quickly learn to leave the plant alone. Nature has created a masterful biological defense that even humans, with all our culinary tools, can barely escape. Which leaves us with a pretty fascinating final thought. If the humble onion is packing this much chemical firepower, what other invisible chemical defense systems are quietly sitting in your kitchen pantry right now?